Hey, in this video we'll talk about status effects and their associated items. We'll take a look at all the special gourds and powders and explore the kanji that flash on the screen when you get poisoned, enfeebled, or succumb to terror. This is the first part of the mini-series of consumables and miscellaneous items that we have left. The end of the project is drawing close. As usual, we'll quickly go over the disclaimers, legend, and sources. If it's not the first time around, feel free to skip ahead. Number 1, use common sense. Please do not assume that I have access to some secret true knowledge. I'm just entertained by reading Sekiro in Japanese. My lore theories are just theories, so treat them accordingly. Number 2, I'm not a professional translator. I have never worked in localization. Yes, I will say that something is translated poorly and something is not, and it will be my personal point of view. Ultimately, my goal is to give you the information so you can see if the localization was good or not, whether something important was lost or not. My opinion is just that, and they choose to share it. Number 3, I am not an expert on Buddhism or Shintoism. I will leave links to the religious terms that we will encounter so you can read more on your own if you're interested. As usual, the transcriptions I give do not follow all academic rules, and I don't think it's necessary. They're just here to represent the pronunciation in case you're curious. All sources I used for this research will be listed in the description box below, along with all the additional information that I referenced throughout the video, so you can read more if you're interested. There you will also find a link to my original blog post if you want to read it through. All gourds in Sekiro, including the healing gourd, are called hyotan, bottle gourd. Bottle gourd, also called long melon, is a real-life vine grown for its fruits. While young fruits can be eaten, mature fruits are dried and used as bottles or other utensils. The uniqueness of the bottle gourd comes from the fact that it is primarily grown to be used as a water container and not for food. Healing gourd in Sekiro looks like a typical bottle gourd, while other gourds that help with status abnormalities have longer necks and are more reminiscent of so-called geese bottle gourds. The word hyotan primarily refers to the bottle gourds used as water containers. Let's talk about poison. When your status bar appears on the screen, the kanji that you can see on the left is doku, poison. When the bar fills up and you are poisoned, the kanji on the screen are chudoku, poisoning. All 3 gourds we're going to cover in this video share the second part of their names, magari hyotan, curved bottle gourds. Curved is clearly referring to their long necks, reminiscent of real-life geese bottle gourds. So green mossy gourd's original name is ryokutai no magari hyotan, green mossy curved bottle gourd. The word ryokutai usually refers to green moss, so the localization is on point. I think the wording "this gourd was made" misleads players into thinking that this is a single unique item, which is definitely not the case. It is a plant and it grows from the soil. Green mossy bottle gourds sprout in poisonous soil and grow, fighting against the poison. It is said that, similarly to the gourd, those living creatures who are born and raised in these poisonous lands become immune to the effects of poison. I remember skipping this piece of lore on my first playthrough and spending like a dozen attempts on Shirahagi, trying to poison her with Sabimaru. I was like, why doesn't it work? She's an Okami descendant, they're all vulnerable to poison. And then I looked around and realized that this lady literally lives in a pool of poison and feels fine. On the contrary, her counterpart Snake Eye Shirafuji is extremely vulnerable to poison because she lives on the snowy cliffs above and doesn't have poison immunity. Green mossy gourd can be purchased from the Toxic Memorial Mob as you descend onto the Sunken Valley floor, where these gourds apparently grow. When you drink from it, the kanji that show up on the screen are taidoku, resistance to poison. The tai part comes from the word taisei, resistance. To save yourself from stronger poison, you can, in true From Software fashion, poison yourself before your enemies or the environment can. How cool is that? Contact medicine's original name is atari gusuri. I think contact medicine is a great localization for this item. Could also be poisonous medicine, since the first line of the description says poison-stricken powdered medicine. The description is localized accurately. This item is associated with Ashina Shinobi, the Nightjar. The last line is quite cryptic. I think it can also be translated as knowing how to use poisons to expands the mind. However, it's not really clear what specific technique the description references. The only fun thing with contact medicine that I know of He's using it to gain infinite Mist Raven without being attacked, because poison damage is counted as being attacked. If you know more creative uses of contact medicine, please share them in the comments. When you use contact medicine, the kanji that flash on the screen are the same that you get when poisoned by any other means, chudoku, poisoning. Almost all powders that we're going to cover today have the same naming pattern: negative effect plus keshi, erasing or putting out, plus ko, powder or dust. Antidote powder is dokukeshiko, quite literally antidote powder. The original description doesn't say anything about this antidote being powerful. It's just an antidote concocted by the Sunken Valley people. The last paragraph is quite inaccurate because the original description references the specific places in the Sunken Valley very clearly. There are magnetite ore veins on the bottom of the Sunken Valley. However, there is poisonous swamp in the vicinity. The description specifically mentions Sunken Valley floor, where all the poison is, and also poison pool in Ashina depths, where Shirahagi dwells with her buddies. Apparently, they mine magnetite there to supply the gun fort above. They're exceptionally resistant to poison, but not immune. Probably that's why they still need to have some antidote powder on hand. When you use this item, the first kanji that appears on the screen is this one, yu, healing or cure. It can be a verb yasu, to heal, to alleviate condition. And then you get the same kanji that you see from using green Mossy gourd, taidoku, resistance to poison. Moving on to burn status effect. When the bar appears on your screen, the kanji on the left is hono, flame. When the bar fills up and you start burning, the kanji are enjo, going up in flames. Its original name is Akagare no Magari Hyotan, Withered Red Bottle Gourd. The first part of the description about the gourd being filled with medicinal waters that are replenished after resting is identical across all gourds. For some incredibly unfortunate reason, the localization completely skipped the last paragraph, even though they had plenty of space left on the card. This is the part that tells us about how these gourds grow. These gourds sprout from scorched earth and grow curved. Consequently, their medicinal waters have the power to resist flames. You might remember that it is Harunaga that sells you this gourd near burning Hirata estate. These gourds sprout from scorched earth, so no wonder they grow there. It's a pity that this part was skipped. All three gourds have a paragraph that describes where they grow and where they get their special abilities from. When you drink from this gourd, the kanji that flash on the screen are taien, resistance to burning. Dousing powder number 1 is called hikeshiko, extinguishing powder. This is the type of powder that you mostly find throughout Hirata estate. It is a powdered medicine for treating burns. The description is accurate. Dousing powder is exceptionally useful, not only because it heals the status, but also because it buffs you against burn attacks. Similarly to antidote powder, when you use dousing powder, you get the kanji yu, healing or cure, and then taien, resistance to burning. Dousing powder number 2 is called Akazonae no Hikeshiko, extinguishing powder of the red troops, or extinguishing powder of the Akazonae. Akazonae was a military organization during Sengoku and Edo periods, elite forces wearing bright red armor, distinguished by their bravery and exceptional prowess. Akazonae were usually led by a busho, an outstanding military commander. Akazonae that invade Ashina are led by Shigekichi of the Red Guard. His original name is Akazonae no Shigekichi, Shigekichi of the Akazonae. This powder is specifically described as the one that agents of the Interior Ministry carry, so this Akazonae troop led by Shigekichi does belong to the Interior Ministry or is allied with them. Ashina's red eyes, born of the waters of rejuvenation. I think it was critical to localize Akame as red eyes, as it's been localized before when talking about ogres and other red eyes that fear fire. Genichiro also has red eyes from consuming rejuvenating waters. One of the Ashina elites does too. The description refers specifically to them. That is why the ministry is not just killing all the Ashina people, they're burning the land because red eyes fear fire, and who knows how many of the Ashina consume the waters of rejuvenation. Fearing red eyes, people of the Interior Ministry made an onslaught on Ashina with fire. They carry this powder not to burn themselves. The kanji that appear when you use this powder are the exact same ones that appear when you use regular powder, yu, healing or cure, and then taien, resistance to burning. When the terror status bar appears on your screen, the kanji on the left is fu, dreadful, fearful. It can be an adjective kawaii, scary, or the verb kowagaru, to be afraid. When the bar fills up, the kanji that flash on your screen are ojike, fear or dread. Its original name is Madara Murasaki Magari Hyodan, speckled purple curved bottle gourd. These gourds sprout in the places of mourning and death, such as graveyards and battlefields, and grow curved. You can purchase this gourd from the exiled memorial mob just before Mibu village. The village itself is not really the happiest of places. There is a graveyard where the undead grab you by the ankles from under the ground, so everything checks out. The villagers also throw stuff at you and it builds up terror. When you drink from this gourd, the kanji you see are taifu, resistance to terror. Pacifying Agent is called ojikigeshi, literally fear extinguisher. Weirdly enough, it doesn't have powder in its name, even though the description states that it is, in fact, powdered medicine, just like everything else we've looked at. I think Pacifying Agent is a great name for it. Unspeakable deeds in Japanese is work that is considered taboo, but also work that is related to mourning and death. I think both fit, considering that the description gives some examples: gravekeepers and the memorial mob. What the localization translated as executioners is in fact kaishakunin, a person who beheads one who has committed seppuku. Headless enemies inflict terror on wolves too. Think about not only the headless, but also about the guardian ape and his scream when he puts his head back to his neck. The last paragraph was somewhat combined with the second one. Not a great decision, because in the original the powder has nothing to do with covering your ear, while the English localization makes it seem that you're supposed to sprinkle some pacifying agent on your butt when you get scared. There is one more precaution. When terrified, cover your behind. This precaution might sound strange, but I'm sure you know where it's coming from, especially if you remember our headless research way back when. If a headless manages to grab wolf, he will extract wolf's shirikodama, a mythical ball containing one's soul located inside the anus. When seized with fear, protect your soul and the place where it's located. The kanji that appear when you use this powder are pretty standard: yu, healing or cure, and then taifu, resistance to terror. When your shock bar is filling up, the kanji on the left is kaminari, lightning. When you get zapped, the kanji that appear on the screen are dare, struck by lightning. Its original name is unatan, eel liver. Eel liver is very special because it's not a medicine or a powdered medicine like all the other consumables we've looked at, but a myoyaku, miracle cure. The altar is kamidana, a miniature household altar in Shinto religion, usually high on the wall, where people worship deities through offering prayers, food, flowers, and shintai, items of great symbolic value for the gods to inhabit. Ashina people keep eel liver on their kamidana. The last paragraph of the description is true poetry. It uses two words that are read as kaminari. Kaminari as lightning, and kaminari as echo of gods. Lightning is an echo of the fountainhead god. Echo of the god can be suppressed, if only for a short while. When you consume eel liver, the kanji that appear on the screen are tairai, resistance to lightning. I've never noticed it before, but when you eat the liver, there is a slight crackling sound. Moving on to the statuses that do not really have any sort of items or descriptions associated with them. Enfeebled. When the bar starts building up, the kanji on the left is toshi, age. When the bar fills up, interestingly enough, it fills up only when white wisps reach the noble. You get struck by toshiyori, old age. If you manage to kill the noble who enfeebled you, the kanji that you'll see on the screen will be wakagaeri, restoration of youth. Who would have thought that in the world of Sekiro, where there is terror, burning, poison, and lightning, the most dangerous status with the least likely recovery will be old age? I think the enfeeblement mechanic gives more lore about the nobles than probably anything else. They crave youth, they want to live a long life. When Harunaga asks you for scales, the very first time you meet him, he says, "I want to become a carp. A giant carp that will continue growing and live a long, long life. A carp that never grows old." And then after a while, "The damned fools at Fountainhead Palace. Soon I'll be a carp." And as age withers you away, as you sit powerless in the face of eternity, I'll be the new great carp. We'll talk more about them as we get to explore the Fountainhead Palace. When Wolf takes back his youth, he basically eats it out of the noble's chest and neck, much in the same way nobles themselves kill Okami for their youth. The last status effect that has only 2 kanji associated with it and no descriptions of any sort is Medicine Ban. You get it when caught in a cloud of green mist that Owl creates during the Great Shinobi boss fight. The kanji are kinyaku, drug or medicine prohibition, and it prevents Wolf from using healing items. There is no status bar filling up, so the only thing that we have are these 2 kanji. The differences between Great Shinobi and Owl Father boss fights have always fascinated me. In Great Shinobi boss fight, Owl is not in his prime anymore, and it's taken away some of his confidence since he often resorts to more treacherous means of fighting: dust clouds, poison, medicine ban, while in the Father boss fight he uses none of these things. I thought this will be a great opportunity to talk about the bright red kanji that we all know and love. It appears countless times throughout the game, nearly in every single fight, and bestows upon you both shock and terror in real life. Of course, it's ki, danger, the kanji that heralds perilous attacks. Its adjective is abunai, dangerous or perilous. The localization here is on point. It can also be used as a careful warning. If there is one single kanji that Sekiro teaches players regardless of their knowledge of Japanese, it's this one. And that was all about status effects. In the next video, we'll talk about all the items that have to do with healing and resurrection, divine grasp, pellets, bite down, everything. We're nearing the end of item exploration. I think there are a couple more videos left, and then we can proceed to area exploration. I will save some area-related items, such as prayer necklaces, for when we get to travel across Ashina and look at the places in great detail. Don't forget to check the description for relevant links and more reading. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.